Well, welcome to this harvest edition of the Museum Roadshow. I'm Roger Engstrom. I'm a retired Becker County farmer, and I spent a fair amount of time as a young boy around one of these thrash machines. Today we're out here at the Tom and Charlene von Ruden farm, which is north of Frazee, and Tom has got a collection of these thrash machines here in his yard that he uses for lawn ornaments. These thrash machines are complete. They've got the belts for them, and they could be made to operate with some tender loving care. We're going to explain to you today a little bit about the thrash machine, as this was the predecessor of the modern day combine. But before we can do that, we have to talk a little bit about how we get to the month of August and we have some wheat to harvest. We're going to start out by planting wheat in the spring, along about in April or May when the soil conditions are fit. And to make it real easy to understand, we're going to use this grain sack. This grain sack holds 2 bushel of wheat, or 120 pounds. When we go out to plant wheat, we're going to plant 1 sack of wheat like this to 1 football field. And the planting conditions are right, the weather is favorable. Within about a week to 10 days, we're going to have a nice green football field as this wheat germinates and starts to grow. It'll grow along then through the summer, and if weather conditions are favorable, we get adequate rainfall. Well, along about the end of July, usually in August, the binder goes out to cut the wheat. But basically what happens, the binder, the wheat is cut and it falls onto a platform canvas. The wheat then goes up through the elevator canvas, which is 2 canvases running right next to each other. It goes between them up to the tying head. And when the wheat gets up in the tying head, it gets tied into a bundle. And on this bundle, you're going to have a piece of twine string like this that holds this bundle together. And this bundle then will be dumped out onto the bundle carrier. And after about 6 or 8 bundles are on there, it will be dumped off. And the guys will come by and they'll shock it. And then these shocks will be left in the field to dry. And when the thrash machine comes in the yard, which is hopefully going to be within a week or 2, the thrashing process will begin. And I just want to give you a brief, quick understanding of how this thrash machine works. In Becker County, the straw was needed on these farms for livestock during the winter months. So most of the thrashing was done right in the farmyard. The thrash machine would pull into the yard and they'd be set up to thrash. The first thing that would happen, they'd unfold this feeder. It would swing out like this, and that was where they put the bundles in. They'd get the belts on the machine, and the blower pipe that's up here, that would be cranked out 180 degrees. The grain box would pull up, and the grain box would be parked underneath that spout. The belt would be lined up from the other side of the thrash machine. The drive belt would go out probably 50 feet, where the power would be either a steam engine or a gas tractor. The bundle wagons would pull up, the bundles would be thrown into this feeder. They'd be thrown in heads first. There's a band cutter up here that would cut the band. The band would go in with the grain and the straw and end up in the straw pile. And right down here is the heart of this thrashing machine. This is called the cylinder. And what that is a bunch of spike teeth on a big steel drum. This is revolving in a clockwise direction here. And as the grain passes down through the cylinder, it gets rubbed out between the cylinder teeth and the concaves. 90% of your separation is going to occur right in this area. The grain will fall down in the lower part of the machine called the grain pan, and the straw, being bulky, will get kicked up on top of the straw racks, which run along the inside of this machine to full length. The straw will just kind of shake and bounce along till it gets to the back of the machine, where it gets thrown out into the blower and into the straw pile. Meanwhile, this grain is moving across from the grain pan, and it gets back in this area, back in here, where there's a series of sieves. And there's just a fan that's directing a blast of air underneath these sieves. And that blast of air keeps the chaff and the fine material kind of riding on the sieve, but it lets the grain fall through. And the grain falls through down into this auger, gets into this elevator, is is elevated up to the top of the machine, where it dumps into this thing up here called the weigher. And this measures the amount of grain being thrashed. And this tally up here records the number of dumps that are made. When this tally says 999, the next dump will be 1,000. That means 500 bushels of grain has been thrashed, because each dump is half a bushel. And we're going to have to come back and explain to you a little bit more about how these thrash machines worked in the farmyard and all the activities that went into thrashing each fall.